Between the Pages is made possible by Words and Pictures, located at 2610 Center Street Northeast in Calgary. For all your comic book, anime, toys, and more, stop by Words and Pictures. You'll be glad you did. This episode of Between the Pages is brought to you by Red Skull Comics offers the best selection of comics and trade paperbacks in Calgary, with a great selection of manga, games, magic cards, toys, statues, and a whole lot more. Want to be sure your collection is up to date? Then ask the friendly staff about their file services. Need more room for that growing collection? Then ask Red Skull about selling your back issue titles. 18 years and still going strong, Red Skull is the best little comic shop in Western Canada. Visit Red Skull Comics today at 720A Edmonton Trail Northeast in Calgary. Then find them on the web at www.redskull.com and like them on Facebook. Alchemy Apparel, the place to shop for pop culture, with a wide selection of t-shirts, hoodies, backpacks, wallets, belt buckles, bobbleheads, pop figures, and more. T-shirts of the Avengers? They got that. Star Wars bobbleheads? They got that too. Batman belt buckles, hats, or wallets? You can find all your favorite TV, movie, video game, and comic book icons on everything in the store. Head down to Alchemy Apparel in Northland Village Mall and Sunridge Mall today. Be sure to follow Alchemy Apparel on Twitter and Facebook.
Hi, everybody. I am your host, Jason Bisschop. Richard is out on assignment today. And, of course, he's left me with the running the wheel, and I'm a little raw at this, so I'm doing the switching and stuff. This is my first time behind the wheel. And it's great to be here again, and later on, hopefully, Richard will be joining us from planet Vulcan, Alberta, and we'll be doing a little bit of review together and see what surprises he's got in store. We will have a Vulcan special for Spock Days on Tuesday in our old time slot of 8 p.m., so join us on Tuesday for the Vulcan Spock Day special. Before we get to a wonderful Q&A session with Stan Lee, there's a little bit of news to report, mostly on the DC front. Well, all on the DC front. You've probably heard about the new Zero issues that are coming in September. They've been rumored. We should be seeing solicitations here at the end of the month, but some are starting to leak through. And there are some new titles. What these Zero issues are meant to do is give you some backgrounds on some of the characters and storylines you've been reading thus far. When the New 52 started, much like a lot of books, they pretty much just jump in with everything rolling already. So we don't know how a lot of these characters got to where they are right now, and that's what these Zero issues are meant to do. 4 books that have been announced. I know Justice League International is ending on issue 12, and I imagine there's going to be 3 more yet to see the dustbins, unfortunately. But 4 new books usually means 4 books are going away. Assuming they want to keep to their 52 publishing schedule. So, the first one up spins right out of the Batman book by Scott Snyder, and this is going to be co-written by Snyder, and with plots by James Tynion IV. And Gillian Marsh is moving from Catwoman over to this book, and the book is Talon. So that, if you've been reading Batman, should be very telling. This anti-hero on the run concept with one of the court Talons on the loose. So very interesting idea. I'm looking forward to seeing this new book with a new character and a new IP. And bringing back some old Sword and the Sorcery concepts, a book called Sword and the Sorcery Zero. And this is going to be a lot like All-Star Western that has a Jonah Hex lead and usually another Western character backup. Leading this book is going to be Amethyst, returning from the 80s. And following that is a backup of Beowulf and Grendel. Aaron Lopresti is doing the artwork for the Amethyst series. He does Hot Women really nice, so that should go really well. And newcomer Christy Marks is doing the writing, so I'm not really familiar with her work. Looking forward to seeing it. Beowulf and Grendel is going to be written by Tony Bedard, and Jesus Saez is doing the artwork. So check that out. Phantom Stranger's coming back as a new series as well. This is going to be written by Dan Didio, head of the company, and art by Brent Anderson of Astro City fame. This should be an interesting book. I'm a little shaky on Dan Didio's writing, but should be a very cornerstone book for DC. If you read the new DC 52 book, they showed you the origins of the new Trinity, this supernatural Trinity, one being the new character Pandora, the other one is the Question, and Phantom Stranger. So I don't know if they're going to get too much into the background or if they're going to tell more classic Phantom Stranger stories where this guy shows up and I am just a stranger and fixes things. So I think this is going to be a really cool book. It's certainly going to have some wonderful art by Brent Anderson. So check that out in September. And finally in that new slot is Team 7. And you Wildstorm folks will probably remember Team 7. This is a team that got together in the past and did all this covert Black Ops kind of stuff. And the concept's still the same, but now we have this merged DC Wildstorm universe. So we're going to see a mix and match of new characters in Team 7. This is going to be set in the Action Comics era, about 10 years prior to most of the current books. And we are seeing a new writer, and a relatively newcomer to comic books. Writer Justin Jordan is doing the writing, with art by Jesus Moreno. And the team's going to be comprised of Amanda Waller from the Suicide Squad. We all remember her. And Dinah Lance, which should be interesting. She's Black Canary. Steve Trevor, Wonder Woman's on and off boyfriend and current liaison to the Justice League. John Lynch from Gen 13 fame. Alex Fairchild, who I imagine is Caitlin Fairchild's father, also Gen 13 tie-in. Cole Cash, we all know is Grifter, who has his own title right now. And Slade Wilson, Deathstroke the Terminator. So got to tell you, I'm excited about this. I'm a huge Deathstroke fan. That kind of sells it for me, and I've always thought Grifter was a pretty cool character. That they seem to have trouble getting off the ground as a solo character, but I think he's got as much interesting things and background to him as Wolverine does, and you can put him in a lot of different type of stories and scenarios, covert stuff, crime noir. He's just so versatile, so I think this is going to be an interesting book. I don't know much about Justin Jordan, so hopefully he can deliver something really cool with Team 7. As a whole, I think these are a great lineup of books. There's been some teaser artwork out there for Amethyst, so I was kind of wondering what form that was going to take, and it's nice to see Sword and the Sorcery coming back. And you got to give props to DC as a whole with this new 52. They're giving you a very diverse line of books. It's not all superhero. They've got horror and military stuff, and they've really tried to bring back what DC did in the early 70s with this very versatile amount of books. So that's all I got really to tell you. Unfortunately, there was also the passing of sci-fi luminary Ray Bradbury, so I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that. He really influenced a lot of science fiction. A lot of his work was translated into comic books. He inspired a lot of film and television, and he is a modern master of science fiction, and he will be missed. But not to bum you out, we have a good show ahead of us. I just want to acknowledge Gorilla Printing is sponsoring this next segment. This is a Q&A with Stan Lee, and Gorilla Printing, they are great for all your digital printing needs, as well as business cards and trade show banners. So check them out. Gorilla Printing has everything you need, your printing needs covered. Check them out on the web at gorillaprinting.ca. So without further ado, let's talk to Stan.
Without further ado, I would like you guys to put your hands together for a nice warm round of applause for Mr. Stan Lee. Okay, I have to say, I have been a huge fan of everything you've done for a very, very long time.
As it should be.
Yeah. I used to collect X-Men comic books, and I don't know if you saw this backstage, but I'm wearing my Professor Parking Only shirt for you today, sir. Thank you. I just want to start first off with a question regarding your cameo role on Big Bang Theory.
Excuse me a moment.
Yes.
I rather think of myself not as someone who did a cameo to that show, but as the star of the show. What episode did you think?
Oh my gosh, okay. My apologies. The episode that you starred on of Big Bang Theory, how was that experience filming that sitcom for you? How was that?
It's funny, I don't hear as well as I used to. And when this thing, when someone talks it, you know what it sounds like to me? So you use this for them, but to me just talk.
So the question is, how was your experience on Big Bang Theory? Yes, stop.
Now I'm going to tell you what he said, because he didn't use the microphone. And I was able to hear him very well. How did that experience affect me on the Big Bang Theory, right? Well, it didn't affect me, it affected the rest of the cast, because they had something to shoot for. They had a performance they had to try to equal, and it made them so nervous and tense. I think that's why they never asked me back again. No, to be serious, which is not easy for me, it was wonderful. The cast, they're the nicest people. I have a photograph of me with all of them, and the girl is kissing me on the cheek. And I got to text, tweet that one of these days, I think. Or maybe I did, I can't remember. The producer, Chuck Lorre, is a friend of mine. Years ago, I had a studio in Los Angeles called Stan Lee Productions. No, I'm sorry, Marvel Productions.
That's fine. Let's just call it Stan Lee Productions from now on.
What happened, when I came out west, I had always been in New York at Marvel, and I came out at about 1980 to set up their animation studio, and we called it Stan Lee Productions. And at any rate, Chuck Lorre, the producer of The Big Bang Theory, and also 2.5 Men and other shows, he's one of the most successful guys. At that time, he was a writer working at Marvel Productions, so I got to know him, and he's the nicest guy in the world. And it's a funny thing, because I also got friendly with, who's the guy from 2.5 Men who left the show?
Charlie Sheen?
Charlie Sheen. I have a great memory. And I also have gotten friendly with Charlie Sheen, because we may be doing something together. So here I am, friends with Charlie Sheen, and with Chuck Lorre, and they are not friends, and I'm in the middle, so if ever you hear of me being arrested or shot or anything, you know you heard it first here. But to answer your question, I'm only talking a lot because I hear we have like 3/4 of an hour to fill, and I don't know anything. So if I can talk about anything, it'll help a little bit. Anyway.
So let me say this to you. So, do you hang out with Charlie Sheen?
Do I hang out with Charlie Sheen? Nice way I'm helping you with it.
Thank you.
No, I had lunch with him once. He came up to the office a couple times. We were supposed to get together, and I couldn't make it, or he couldn't make it. But the few times I've been with him, he's a hell of a nice guy, you know? And so is Chuck. I may try to get the two of them together. I may be one of the great peacemakers of all time.
Exactly. The peacemaker, Stan.
Oh, but I'll tell you something else about the show. You asked about the show. The show we were talking about was the Big Bang Theory. Just to show you, I can retain the thought for at least a minute. The Big Bang Theory, you hear a lot of applause and a lot of laughter at almost every line. And everybody thinks they have one of these laugh meters. You know, these things you plug in and they automatically laugh. But they don't. And they don't have a studio audience at the show. The people laughing are the people in the show themselves, the people working, the electricians, the photographers, all the people behind the camera. They're the ones who are always laughing because they really think it's funny. And I was so impressed when I saw that. But this is not a panel about the Big Bang Theory, so I promise not to say any more about it.
Thank you. All right, let's take a question from mic number 5, please. Center front.
How do you know who mic number 5 is?
It says it right there.
Oh, this technical age.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, Stan. Stan, after 20 years in the comic business in the early 1960s, you became an overnight success. You created such iconic characters as Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Thor, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, X-Men, Daredevil, Ant-Man. I say all, and you assembled the Avengers.
Sergeant Fury.
And Sergeant Fury. That's so 11 of the most popular, well-known, loved characters in popular culture.
I like this guy, whoever he is.
And I was just wondering, those 3 years, 61, 62, 63, those 11 characters we just talked about, I'd like to know what those years were like. When it was happening, was it like just something, did you know something amazing and incredible was happening, or was it just like hit the deadlines, get the job done, or did you realize what was really, did you feel what was happening there, the phenomenon?
Well, I never knew that it would lead to an exciting moment like this in Calgary. All that happened, really, I was writing these things and I was hoping the books would sell so I'd keep my job and be able to pay the rent. I don't think any of us ever felt we were onto something that would turn into what it turned into. It happened gradually. You know, DC Comics was the big company, and they were always outselling us. And we were all friends in the business, even though it seemed we tried to pretend we were rivals, but we all had drinks together and we knew each other and went out together. And I was friends with Carmine Infantino, who at that time was the editor-in-chief of DC, which was then called National Comics. So anyway, all that we were trying to do was get books that would sell as well as DC's, so that would mean we were successful and we wouldn't worry about going out of business. And little by little, after the Fantastic Four, our sales started to increase. And after a few years, we started outselling DC. So something told me we were on the right track. But again, I never thought it would end up with movies and talking at big conventions and being with Garrett here, who's an actual live-action actor in a famous series. I mean, wow.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. I have a question. Now, when you did develop Fantastic Four, any of these other characters, was there a period of time where you had to go through a drawing board process where you were saying, well, should it be the Fantastic Seven? No. 6. No. 4. I mean, was there things, ideas that you scrapped, and then how long, where did you just come upon it like that?
Well, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted a few characters that I would try to treat differently than comic book characters had been treated before. You know, up until then, it seemed that every superhero, and there weren't that many, but every superhero had a secret identity and wore a costume, which revealed his or her real identity. And I used to think to myself, oh no, wait, I can't say that. I said that the other day, and my wife said, Stan, what do you mean you think to yourself? Who else would you think to? So I always try to catch myself. I thought, I didn't think to myself. What was I saying? So I've got to stop sidetracking myself. So anyway, I wanted to get some character. Oh, I know. I felt if I had a superpower, which is not to say I don't, but if I had a superpower, my first thought wouldn't be to run out and get a costume and a mask. First of all, I'm a pretty conceited guy. If I had a superpower, I'd want everybody to know, look at me, I can do what you can't do. Ha ha. I mean, think of the fun Superman could have had if he told everybody, I'm Clark Kent, and when he walked down the street, people would ask for his autograph and pretty girls would follow him. What an idiot he was to keep his identity secret. So that was one of the things. I didn't want secret identities. Then my publisher felt that the book had to have a teenager. See, these people feel if you're catering to a certain audience, you have to have a character who represents that audience. Just like a lot of kids read Frankenstein and Dracula. That's why there were so many teenagers in those stories. I mean, it's the dumbest thing in the world, but the publishers felt that way. So I had to have a teenager, but I didn't want to make him a token boy wonder or something. I figured I'd make him a real kid who didn't pick what that was the Human Torch, Johnny Storm, for those of you who haven't been following. I figured that I'd make him a kid who really would rather drive his Chevy Corvette than go chasing villains. And he wasn't just some kid who hung around, but he was the younger brother of the heroine. And the heroine, I didn't want to make her a token girl who doesn't know who the hero is. I made her a heroine who works with the hero, and she knows who he is, and then I figured I'll let them be engaged. That'll be fun. They're going to be married. And they got the kid brother there, so that's 3 of them. And no, I didn't mention Reed Richards. I wanted to get the main hero to be a guy a little bit like me. He talks too much, bores the hell out of people, and the only way he's not like me, he was a scientific genius. And I hate to admit this, but I'm not. And in fact, the most I know about science, I wanted something to happen to them when they were up in the spaceship to give them their power. So I figured, okay, they were blasted by cosmic rays. Now I gotta tell you, I wouldn't know a cosmic ray from a hole in the ground. All I know is the expression, a cosmic ray. Like with Bruce Banner when he became the Hulk. I figured, well, I've already used the cosmic ray. What other rays are there? Okay, he got hit by a gamma ray. I don't know what those rays are. The only reason I didn't have the X-Men hit by any rays, I had run out of rays. I don't know any other ones. What the hell was the question?
It doesn't matter. Let's take a question from Mike 2. Mike 2?
Hi, my name is Noel. I just wanted to know, all the generations that grew up reading comics. My dad was a big Thor fan, and I'm a huge Hulk fan. I was just wanting to know how you felt about, so many generations of people from now all the way back to the 60s that you influenced with your books.
I Got all of that except how I felt about what?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear it either.
How you feel, how you influence the generations as far as, because there's a moral context to all your books, to all your comics.
There was a moral tone to all the stuff I wrote. Well, I'm not going to deny it. It sounds so flattering. I tried to have a good guy versus a bad guy. I tried to make the good guy be the kind of guy the reader would want to be. I tried never to glamorize the bad guy too much. And I tried to show that crime does not pay, I guess, but beyond that, I really wasn't trying to moralize. If it turned out that way, I'm happy. But all I was trying to do was come up with stories that people would enjoy so that we could outsell National Comics.
Good answer. Okay. Mic number 6, please.
Mr. Lee, thank you for coming to Comic-Con.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for signing my Marvel Universe t-shirt with all the women on it. And I would like to know what your inspiration is behind the marvelous women that you have created throughout the universe.
I miss that sheet. Oh, my wife, I guess. My wife is very marvelous, so I take a little of her every time I create anything. I don't know, I'm trying to think who the women are. Let's see, there's Sue Storm. There was Iron Man's secretary, what was her name? Pepper Potts. And I guess there were others. It's so hard for me to remember them all. Oh, let me tell you about Mary Jane. Now this is really odd, because when John Romita, after Steve Ditko left, John Romita and I were doing the Spider-Man strip. And we had created, not Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy. And I thought Gwen Stacy would eventually be the girl that Spider-Man married, that Peter Parker married. But just for fun, we wanted to introduce another girl, so we introduced Mary Jane. Now, these were fictitious girls that we made up out of our heads. They didn't really exist, and yet, once we started writing them, and I started writing the dialogue for them, Mary Jane suddenly had all the personality, and Gwen, while she was a nice girl, was just a nice girl. And Mary Jane was the one with the fiery personality, and she was hip and everything. And we couldn't control that. We couldn't make Gwen as exciting or personable as Mary Jane, even though we tried. It was like they were living creatures and we couldn't control them. Maybe I shouldn't tell that, because maybe it shows that we were a lousy writer and artist. I'll tell you another thing. I killed off Captain Stacy in one story because I thought it would be very dramatic. Captain Stacy was Gwen's father. Was her name Gwen Stacy? I think it was Gwen Stacy. Yeah, okay. If you don't know either, we'll settle for that. So I killed off her father because I wanted a very dramatic moment when the father is dying and Peter Parker, Spider-Man, tried to save him. And he always worried, what would the father say if I married Gwen and he found out that I'm Spider-Man? And Peter Parker didn't know that Gwen's father, didn't think Gwen's father knew who he was. But when Gwen's father lay dying in Peter's arm, he said something like, I'm sorry, in Spider-Man's arm. Spider-Man had tried to save him, but got there too late or something. He said to Spider-Man, take good care of Gwen, Peter. And Spider-Man realized the father knew who he was. And I thought that was incredibly dramatic. and now we can move on with the story. Well, a few months later, I had to go to Europe for some reason. I left the book to Jerry Conway to write. And when I was in Europe, I found out that he had killed Gwen Stacy. I said, we already killed the father. It's like we have a vendetta against the Stacy family. One last thing about Mary Jane, and I'll quit. There was one line I loved, and I don't know why they didn't use it in the movie. I thought it would have been so good. Peter Parker's aunt always wanted him to meet this girl next door, who was a very nice girl. Now, most teenagers, if their mother says, I want you to meet a nice girl, they'll run a mile. Most guys don't want a nice girl. They want a sexy girl, a fun girl, but not a nice girl when they're teenagers. Anyway, Peter kept avoiding this. He just would do everything he could not to meet Mary Jane. In one story where I had to meet her, he met her in the last panel. She came to the house, he couldn't get away. The aunt knew she was coming. She made Peter stay there. The door opened up, he opens the door, and there is this gorgeous redhead. And she said to him, what did she say to him? Face it, tiger, you won the jackpot, or some line like that, I forget what it was. But I thought it was so good, and they didn't use it in the movie, and I'm ashamed of them. Then I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
Oh, you're talking just enough.
Okay. Oh, I know what she said. I know. She said, face it, tiger, you hit the jackpot. That was a good line.
That's a great one. Okay, we have another question, mic number 5. Wave at us wherever mic number 5 is. I can read that, yes. Is that mic 5? Yes. It's over there.
Hey, Stan, how's it going? My name's Jay. Welcome to Calgary. I just wanted to speak about and see what kind of was happening with Amalgamated Comics, the whole crossover between DC and Marvel a few years ago. Did you have a hand in that at all? Or?
I never heard of it. Who's Amalgamated Comics?
It was like the Marvel symbol and the DC symbol put together. There's like Dark Claw with Wolverine and Batman, and Spider-Man was crossed with...
I hate to let you down, but I don't know anything about that.
Really?
But that reminds me of another story. I gotta kill time. Keep going. This really, to me, is amazing. When we saw that our books were selling after the Fantastic Four and the Hulk and so forth, I decided to change the company's name. We had been called, I think, Atlas Comics at the time. And I wanted to get a better name, a name I love advertising. I wanted to get a name I could advertise, and I thought of Marvel. That had been the name of the first magazine they ever published in the 30s. I said, let's call it Marvel Comics, because then I could come up with slogans like, make mine Marvel, welcome to the Marvel Age of Comics, and Marvel marches on, and I could have fun with the name. Okay, so we changed it to Marvel. A short time later, DC, which was then called National Comics, and they were always imitating us, they said, obviously, hey, if Marvel changed their name, we're going to change our name. So I understand they paid a high-price expert. I didn't know there were such people who are experts in name changing. They paid a lot of money for a guy to come up with a name, and they ended up with DC Comics. Now, we were Marvel, and they were DC. They would have been better off National. You could do more with the name National. So anyway, I'm sorry to intrude on what we were saying, but I just had to get that off my chest. Thank you for bearing with me. You're a very sweet group. No more interruptions.
Did you want any water now? Okay. Never use it. Never use water. Throw that away. Okay. Mic number two. Will you wave at us? Where are you? Oh, back there? Okay. She's all the way back there. All right. Go ahead.
How can you tell where they are?
I asked them to jump and wave, and I see them.
See a thing but blackness.
Really? No, I see no people
I
in
know
there.
it could be a soundtrack, and then it's an empty. Oh, anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. Question, please.
Great to meet you, Stan. I'm Scott, and we're all thrilled to see Stan the man. Right on. So my question for you is, I've been a fan of the X-Men for years. The first issue of X-Men, I noticed how they seem very similar in personality in the first issue, such as the Beast and his jargon when he spoke. It was a lot like the Thing. Now, by issue number 2, he was reading very advanced textbooks. That's one really good question I have. What was your main reason for going that route with making the tough guy that genius, which is totally different than the Thing? And I've heard that you're a big fan of the Angel, and what was your reason for making him the personality of the arrogant, brash, rich boy that he was? Make mine Marvel!
Well, I'm glad you're a fan, even if you did ask me a difficult question. And I like to give characters definite personalities. When we started the X-Men, for some reason we were in a hurry with that first issue, and I kind of batted out the story and gave it to Jack Kirby to draw, and that was it. Then after it had been done and I read it, I said, I didn't give these characters enough personality. So in the second issue, I always like to go against type. We had a guy called the Beast, who looked like the most uneducated and the toughest of the group. So I figured I'll let him be the one who's the most intellectual. That would be going against type. As far as the Angel went, and I love the Angel. I'm sorry that he had never been featured much in the movies or anywhere. I would have used more of him had I remained there. But I wanted him to be a very rich, very conceited guy. Not a bad guy, but he knows he's handsome, he knows the women love him, he thinks he's too good for anybody, and I thought I could have fun with a character like that. And he knew when he finally took off his jacket and spread his wings, he felt this is the greatest thing in the world and I'm impressing people. So he was conceited, a little bit like me, and I wanted him to be that way. And the same with all of them. I tried to give them all very definite. Now, I did not create Wolverine, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't, because he is a great character. And I love the personality he has. He's almost a bad guy, but he's good and he's great and he's tough. He's like you and me. He's tough and he's wonderful. That's it.
Awesome. You don't know how this is so awesome. I'm sitting right here, and you're sitting right here, and I'm going to take a picture of us.
If we were sitting somewhere else, we wouldn't be talking.
Can I just stop?
And that was our interview with Stan Lee. And welcoming my co-host, Richard Cleveland, live from planet Vulcan, Alberta. How are you, Richard? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man, but co-host?
Yeah, well,
I thought you were the co-host.
Not today, man. I'm the captain of the ship.
You're the cat. Oh, that's right, too. That's why you sent me on assignment here in planet Vulcan.
That's right.
Alberta.
So, Vulcan, Alberta. So, how's it going out in Vulcan? We actually just had an interview with Stan Lee, with the interviews being done by Garrett Wang, who you talked to just yesterday, didn't you?
Yes, actually, we talked to Garrett Wang yesterday, and we also talked to Connor Trenier, who played Trip on Enterprise. This afternoon, we are going to be talking with Arlene Martell and Crystal Allen, who is a Albertan. And earlier today, which we'll be showing this footage later, I'm super psyched about it. I talked to Walter Koenig.
Check off. That is amazing. Yeah. And for those of you watching, that show is going to be coming up on Tuesday, I do believe, in our old time slot as a special edition of Between the Pages.
Yes, absolutely. That's coming up Tuesday. We're going to edit all this footage together and do a nice little special for the people out here in Vulcan and for the people around the world watching the show. I'm just trying to get a couple of Klingons to join me here on screen. But before we get into our review, I'm going to give you a quick peek around. You can see some of the stuff. We're here in the Vulcan Tourist Center, and I don't know how much of this you can see, but you can see there's tons of people in here, and there's tons of artwork. Wonderful models over here.
Yeah, these booths look amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's stunning out here. And as you can see, there's a big screen back behind me. We've got some kind of interactive game going on. I'm not quite sure what you do there because I haven't played it yet, but you know, there's all kinds of craziness going on. And oh, check this out. There's the captain's chair.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the captain's chair from the Enterprise. So it's I'm super psyched about this, and you know, we've been having a great time. Let me see if I can adjust my camera here a little bit. There we go. Tilt it down just a little bit. All right, so out here in Vulcan, it's been a pandemonium. They just had Klingon Fear Factor. Unfortunately, we were unable to get it because we've got an interview coming up with Arlene Martell from the original series. She played T'Pring, Spock's wife.
Wow, that's incredible stuff. Maybe we can find out a little bit more about that Klingon Fear Factor thing. It's too bad you guys couldn't get in there, but at the same time, it probably saved you from your gag reflexes. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know me and bad-looking food. I don't handle it well. So Leslie, our producer, is rounding up a couple of Klingon gals to join us for the comic book review. So we might as well get to that now. We've got a couple of books to review this week. Starting, what do we have starting?
Well, this review is brought to you by.
This review is actually brought to you by Red Skull Comics, located at 720A Edmonton Trail Northeast, right in Calgary, Alberta. They have a great selection of new and back issues. They've got file services. You can sell your old comics there. They have a buy-back system. What else have they got? Oh, wow. They even actually have digital copy comics that you can buy from their website, and that's at redskull.com. So check them out on the web.
Excellent. Thanks, Richard. Okay, well, let's start this review off with our first book, Harbinger from Valiant Comics. Did you get a chance to read this one?
Now, I did not get a chance to look at the digital copy that you sent me, and I do apologize.
Oh, you're cutting out there, Richard.
I'll let you dive into it, and you can tell the folks what.
All right. Well,
okay, you can just.
I'll run with the review. You're cutting in and out here a little bit. So Harbinger #1 from Valiant Comics. I got to say it was an interesting read. I wasn't a big reader of Harbinger back in the day. This book's written by Joshua Dishart. Dishart, who did the really wonderful Unknown Soldier book for Vertigo, and I gotta say, it's really wordy. They're very much getting into the character development here. We do see Toya Harada make his return to Valiant in this book, and it's certainly a different flavor from what I'm used to reading from the previous iteration of Harbinger, which really sets off the tone that this is definitely a different world from the old Valiant comics. Now, the artwork's pretty slick. It's a little different, so I'm just going to hold a little bit up there for you. And I got to tell you, Valiant's getting some very cool talents working on this book. Essentially, this story is following a character who essentially can hear thoughts and manipulate people a little bit. And this is where Toya Harada shows up and kind of gives him the background of who he is. I don't want to give too much away on that front, but there's a lot of setup happening in here. Much like Exo Man of War, they kind of get the ball rolling right away. And not a bad start. It was a slow start, but I gotta say I enjoyed this one. It was a pretty cool read.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it when I get back to Calgary. We're going to be here till later this evening. We're going to be talking to 5440 as well.
Wow, 5440. That's legendary rock band 5440. That is incredible. It sounds like you're having a great time. I'm kind of envious being on this side of the mic.
Well, you're missing a great time. Now, we've also got 2 other books to talk about, and those 2 books I did read.
Okay, well...
But you know what? Before we move to that, I got a couple of Klingon folks that have just joined me here just off screen, so I'm going to bring them on in.
There's Klingons in Vulcan.
There's Klingons in Vulcan. Can you believe it?
That's crazy, and everybody's getting along. All the races are okay.
There has been no Batleth fights. There's been no Katang fights. Everything looks good. There's been no Targs running around the streets, so they're on leashes. Everything's good.
Excellent. Peace in the universe.
So if we just bring them on in here, I'm just bring them into camera here real quick.
Sure.
So as you can see, there are Klingons in Vulcan.
Wow. Hello, Klingons in Vulcan.
So everybody wave hi back to the studio in Calgary. So there you go.
That is very cool.
So now the next book we're going to talk about is which?
Let's go into Avengers vs. X-Men Round 5. And this book, again, has the Marvel AR app. There's the little AR code right there. And you can use the app for some extra features in there. I haven't actually got a chance to look at those extra features, but I did read the book.
Very cool.
Now, this kind of wraps up the first act. And again, this is written by a whole slew of people. Fraction, it was the main plotter on this book, Matt Fraction, with pencils again by John Romita Jr. And I got to say, this was I'm not sure about Avengers vs. X-Men so far. The book is starting to develop. This kind of ends in a very strange Power Ranger kind of way.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way myself.
And I felt they played this card already back in Siege, so sorry, Fear Itself.
Right.
But that said, this is only the end of the first act, and I'm sure this is going to go in a much different direction than before. What did you think about this one?
Well, you know, John Romita Jr.'s artwork kind of fell flat for me on this book. It seemed like the idea of where he was going with some of the characters just kind of changes from panel to panel. He doesn't quite get the angles that I'm used to seeing from him. As far as the story goes, I felt it was a little flat for, end of the first act, so to speak. But I believe it's going to bring in something a lot stranger to the next part of the series. So we'll see exactly what happens there. But overall, I mean, the book was, I think, a good part to the first 5 issues. However, for me, it was just a little flat. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in 6.
And I agree with you there. I think there's more to come. We finally got another cameo shot of Scarlet Witch, who's going to play a big part, I think, in the second act of this book. So, again, Avengers versus X-Men number 5, lots of tie-ins to this book as well that'll kind of flesh this out. Over in various X-Men and Avengers titles, everything carrying that blue banner up top will be a tie-in, but they've structured it in such a way where it isn't necessary to read those. And I gotta agree with you on John Romita Jr.'s work there. I've always felt he's better at single character books like Spider-Man and Punisher, and I find some of his style gets a bit muddled with team books, and people start looking the same, and I get it. Team books are much harder to do, and you got to pack a lot more into a panel, so sometimes you don't get it off just right, probably the way you want it to.
You're probably very right about that. So our next book is done by one of my favorite writers and artists, and that's by Darwin Cook, and this is Before Watchmen.
And I am holding that book up right now, and I got to tell you, Darwin always comes from a place of love when he writes and draws a book. He just, he's got such a great style.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's got such a great style. You go ahead.
Yeah, he does. I mean, this goes back to the Justice League Final Frontier or New Frontier book that he did. I love the style. I love the way he wrote this book. I think that both complement one another. I think it's a nice narrative on the character in which he's trying to portray in this book. And I think, if this is the start to what it's going to be, I think, Before Watchmen is off to a good start.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be something special. Now, I mean, this was a slower out-of-the-gate book. Watchmen opens up with a big death falling out of a building, and we have Hollis Mason at the beginning sitting in his chair reflecting. And this is definitely a more reflective book. You're getting more background on the Minutemen, who we didn't really get to learn a ton about in Watchmen. So we get to see a lot more background of these characters and their formation as a team. And like I said, it certainly comes from a place of love. Darwin's artwork is very deliberate in the way he lays out a panel. And I think it's a great start to a bunch of series. Next week is Before the Watchmen Silk Spectre book, which should tie fairly closely to this one, I would think.
I think I agree with you on that as well. I think the next book coming out, I can't wait to read it, and I think we should do a review on that one coming up.
Absolutely. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of Watchmen reviews from us in the next little while. Now, I think so too. This also debuted the first 2 pages of The Curse of Crimson Corsair. Now, unlike the first part of the book by Darwin, which really feels like it's set in the period, this is a pirate story, much like the Tales of the Black Freighter from the first one, and I think is meant to be a similar idea of a comic within the world. Now, this one, it felt weird to me. Like, even though there's only 2 pages, and I think the story's fine, it feels far too modern for what it's trying to do. Like, this is supposed to be a comic book in, the 70s, 80s? Yes, and it's got all this computer coloring. It's got a very modern sensibility to it. So it feels a little bit out of place to me. That said, it's not a bad story at all. Based on the 2 pages I read, I assume these are going to be running as backups through each of these books on a weekly basis. So you'll have to pick up each of these books to get the full story of the Crimson Corsair. Yeah. So what did you think about that?
Well, I thought it was a great book, but you know what? I've got to beam out.
Okay.
Because the Klingons are telling me it's time to go. They're moving me off.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get them to say goodbye, and hopefully, they don't lock me up in some gulag somewhere.
I see the Battlers are coming out, so thanks for joining us from planet Vulcan, Alberta.
Everybody say, all right, man, we're out of here. You have a great show. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks very much, Richard. We will see you back in studio soon.
All right.
And that was Richard Cleveland joining us from Vulcan, Alberta, from Spock Days, with some really fun Klingons in the background. Thanks for joining us, Richard. So that was our review. Thanks for watching that. And our next thing is usually what's on the shelf. So we'll get to the what's on the shelf here. Just gonna load up my screen and go through the invoices, as it were. The what's on the shelf is brought to you by Words and Pictures, who is located right here in Calgary. It's 2610 Center Street Northeast, Calgary, Alberta. Phone number is 403-282-8870. They have file services, toys, games, back issues, probably the best selection of back issues in the city. And call them if you have anything. They can set you up for it. So any requests. And this is also brought to you by Alchemy Apparel for all your t-shirts, belt buckles, and accessories, hats. Alchemy Apparel has a lot of cool, kitschy geek culture and comic book stuff. So go check out Alchemy Apparel at Northland Mall or Sunridge Mall. That's Alchemy Apparel. All right, so up on the shelf for next week, we've got... well, we talked about Before the Watchmen, so Before the Watchmen, Silk Spectre #1. So that'll be a 4-part series by Darwin Cook and Amanda Connor. And based on what we've read so far, this is going to be a really cool series, and that'll also probably have part 2 of the Crimson Corsair story. Batman #10 also comes out, and that is the... what's left over from Night of Owls, the continuing the Owl story, and more likely setting up that Zero we talked about earlier, the Talon series. So I think that's going to be a really cool book. Check it out. Batman #10, and what else we got coming out here? I'm just scrolling through our screen. Oh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer #10 as well for season 9. Continuing the story arc called Free Fall. And new Cobra book from IDW, #14. Hey, has anybody been picking up those chess pieces that have been coming out from an English company called Eagle Moss? It comes with a magazine, and they got these chess pieces, and later on in the year, the chessboard will come out. And this is all a Batman series of stuff, and the Batgirl White Knight will be out this week, but they've had Batman and Robin and Joker out as pieces so far, and they're beautiful sculpts, so I would... If you're into Batman collectibles, I would check that out as well. Fantastic Four #607. Jonathan Hickman knocking the park out of that book. What else we got? Green Lantern #10 and Grifter #10. Incredible Hulk #9 is coming out. And I gotta say, Jason Aaron's doing a good job bringing a new voice and a new feel to the Hulk. They left us in a very interesting place with the Point One we reviewed a few weeks ago, so I think there's some great potential in that book, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next there. But I'm biased. I'm a huge Hulk fan. From IDW, they do have a bunch of new IPs coming up, and they picked up the rights to do a new Kiss book. Kiss #1 will be out this coming Wednesday. So check out Kiss #1 from them. I'm not sure who's doing that book, so it'll be a surprise for everybody. Massive from Dark Horse, #1 will also be coming out next week. Boy, just a huge week of stuff coming out. Ravagers #2, which is spinning out of the Titans Superboy stuff, and has been really, really a fun read. I think it really gets to the heart of the Titans stuff that we've read in the past. And the big one from Marvel, Spider-Men, not man, but men, Spider-Men. This is by Brian Michael Bendis, and this is the 616 Spider-Man Peter Parker meeting the Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales. I have no idea where this story is going. This is a story I never thought we'd really ever see, so... If you've been reading Bendis' Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man recently or even in the past, you know he's awesome at this stuff. I think this is going to be just a huge runaway book for them. And look forward to seeing it. And most likely we will be reviewing that one as well. So check it out, Spider-Man #1 from Marvel Comics. And as well as Ultimate Comics #13 of Ultimate X-Men. And that pretty much wraps up the stuff I want to mention for releases for next week. So check that out. They are fantastic books, or at least we hope they will be, from some very talented people. And thank you for joining me today. We've hit our mark. I'll just be hanging out a wee bit longer after the show. Before we go, we do have contests that are running right now. I'm just going to grab our mascot here. We have the Name of the Ape contest running right now. Our ape needs a name. So hop onto our website, which is nakedapeprod.com between the pages, or email us, or hit us up on Facebook, which is www.facebook/naked-ape-productions. And you can message us there with your entries. The name we like the best will win a Spawn prize pack, as well as a few other fun goodies. And our ape will have finally a name. We do have a bunch of entries now, and we're still looking for that right fit. We're honing in on one, so if we don't get more entries, we'll be closing this one off soon. So, Name of the Ape. Get your entries out now, and we'll have a nice prize pack for you, and we'll name him on the air. Now, when we hit 100 likes on Facebook, we'll be running a new contest, and that's going to be for all of our free comic book day stuff we reviewed a while back. And it comes in a big swag bag as well, with free comic book day emblazoned on it. And this bag's really great for conventions and things as well. In that bag, we will have the Marvel books, the DC New 52 book that was very important with the background story of Pandora, and we'll probably be setting up the Phantom Stranger series as well. And also that beautiful Archaea hardcover for Mouse Guards. So like us on Facebook if you haven't already. Tell your friends to like us on Facebook, and then we can get that contest running. We need 100 likes before we'll start running that contest. So like us on Facebook. We also have a Twitter feed. So there it is, at naked_ape_prod. That's our Twitter feed. So follow us on Twitter, and you can get all the latest info and updates on our shows. And we are talking about new shows coming up, so I think we've got some exciting stuff. We're talking about a movie review show, and we've got some fun stuff in store for that show. So keep following us on Twitter, and we'll hopefully have more to announce there. So thank you for joining us. That was episode 11.1. Why .1? Well, because 11.0, we lost audio for pretty much the entire show, and we had a big Skype interview that none of the audio got recorded for. So unfortunately, we just scrapped that show, and this is 11.1. And those of you who were watching last week probably know about our technical difficulties, but we've got that all ironed out now. So thanks for joining us. And after the credits roll, I'll be hanging out for a few more minutes, just with the after show. And yeah, we'll see you next week between the pages.